The following message is a prophetic word from the Lord. Truly, says the Lord of hosts, I have seen thousands and even millions of my precious people hurting in this man-made economic depression. This misery is going on not because my people bought one pair of shoes too many, but because of greedy bozos in business suits speculating or gambling away money on Wall Street. Big bankers dip into people's retirement funds and gamble away the life savings of millions of poor people without a twinge of conscience. And when all the hell breaks loose, the people are forced to shell out to repay the bankers for the money the bankers lost. If you buy a lottery ticket at 7-Eleven and you don't win, you lose your dollar, plain and simple. But you don't go pounding on the door of some bank demanding that they pay you back because it was your own fault for gambling in the first place. If you bet on the horses at the racetrack and lose your shirt, you don't go to some bank demanding compensation for your personal loss, and yet you're expected to cover all the banking system's wagers and risks. The poor are forced to tighten their belts while greedy rich swine hog all the fine things of life, laughing all the way to the bank. It didn't escape my notice when a certain group of rich thieves publicly mocked the plight of people they had helped to make homeless and put out on the street. Many Christians think this is only an issue which concerns the world, but that is all wrong. So long as you live and work in this world to make a living, this problem also affects you as a Christian and your precious families. So many of my children come to me in tears, pleading to be restored to a job they've lost during this economic crisis. Others beg me to help them feed and clothe their families. Well, I certainly will take care of you as one of my own dear children, if you put your trust in me. I feed even the little songbirds day in and day out, and they are blessedly free of having to worry about money or working for the system. I even feed the lowliest insects, and I provide homes for wild animals. Aren't my own dear children worth infinitely more than wild birds and beasts? I will certainly see to it that rich thieves who mock their poor victims are made homeless and dependent themselves. They will stand in bread lines, seeking to get help from the Salvation Army and other charitable organizations. You reap what you sow. Laugh at your victim, and you'll become a victim yourself. Big rich bigwigs shall fall with a loud thud onto the hard rock of my judgment. I will allow tumultuous events to unfold, but it won't always happen in the favor of the rich thieves on Wall Street. After the rapture of the church, charitable organizations will be harder and harder to find, because my spirit of love, resident in the church, will be absent by then. The tribulation period will be a time of extreme hardship and suffering, because my spirit will be largely absent from the earth. Gross darkness will cover the land, and hatred, selfishness, and greed will be much worse than it is even today. Don't think for even 1 second, greedy banker, that when money loses its value and even gold and silver take a nosedive, and all your investments become worthless, that you'll love one another as Christian brethren do. My spirit of love is absent from your heart even now, and only then, in the tribulation period, will you get a glimpse of the gross nastiness of human nature. Like the cutthroat swindlers you are, you'll begrudge each other even a few scraps of bread in that terrible day of famine and war. You have lived like greedy dogs that can never get enough to satisfy your carnal lusts. So I proclaim from my high holy heaven that like dogs, you will seek your food from the alleyways behind supermarkets, just like a lot of poor people have to do today. When there's nothing left of value to steal from the so-called peasants, you rich parasites will feed on each other like vultures. Your gated communities will be overrun by desperate, hurting people wanting their fair share of food and shelter, and you'll be holed up like rats, fighting to defend your dwindling stockpiles of essential goods. Once the food is gone, you'll join everyone else out there in the streets, foraging through dumpsters for your daily bread. Don't think, Mr. and Mrs. High and Mighty, that you'll never be reduced to eating your meals out of garbage cans. If I can pronounce sentence from heaven proclaiming that King Nebuchadnezzar would eat grass like an ox, surely I can even now proclaim that the day will come that you'll be eating outdoors like he did and living off any moldy scraps that you can find. As for the spoiled, arrogant wives and girlfriends of greedy bankers, get ready for my day of tribulation judgment. Instead of Evian water, there shall be contaminated tap water to drink, sewer water in the most extreme cases, and sometimes no water at all available for human consumption. For the day will come when I will turn a third of the world's waters into blood, and the rest of the water will be contaminated with the waste of war and death everywhere. Instead of sweet perfumes, there shall be the stale smell of sweat and grime. Instead of fine fancy clothes from exclusive boutiques, there shall be ripped, faded jeans and flak jackets. Instead of fine jewelry, there will be bandages on your arms from where you had to donate blood plasma just to get a few extra dollars to feed yourselves. You skinny cows who live a fat lifestyle off these greedy banker swindlers, the day will come your fancy financier will no longer be able to keep you up in the style to which you've become accustomed, and he won't even be able to buy you a can of beans anymore. Just like the desperate women of apostate Israel, you'll attach yourself to any man who looks like he's still got something and say, "Please take care of me and I'll go to bed with you. I never had to work before, and I don't know how to make my own living now." Some boasted that not even God could sink the Titanic, and that's the attitude of these greedy capitalist bigwigs and bankers. They boast that their big money-making operation is so vast and powerful that they've already conquered the world and made virtual slaves out of the populace, who must work till they drop dead to pay the taxes to cover the bankers' bad debts. When arrogance and pride in human achievement and wealth caused certain ones to boast against the Lord, the door was opened for the devil to devise the sinking of the Titanic. It wasn't my will for all those poor people to suffer and die, but actions and words can carry negative repercussions in the spiritual realm. Satan seized the opportunity to do something about that boast, so I would get the blame. Many hundreds of precious lives were lost. People who could have been saved and lived out longer lives to my glory. Fat cats on Wall Street and worldly men of finance boast in their wicked, darkened hearts that not even I, the Lord, can stop them from getting richer, richer, and richer at the expense of the poor and the helpless. But just like I knocked King Nebuchadnezzar off the throne of his glory, so I can do the same to financial tyrants who are enslaving and robbing my people. Times will get so bad for these evil men and women that they will search for shelter out in the drippy cold rain, lacking bread, clothing, and shoes. I shall make their stinking money worthless and fit only for throwing into the fireplace as fuel. No longer will they be able to use their foul, filthy lucre to buy friends, pervert the course of justice, or satisfy the lusts of their wicked flesh. Neither their silver nor their gold shall be able to deliver them in the day of my fierce wrath. Yes, the day of darkness is indeed dawning upon this earth, in this period just prior to the great tribulation period. But just like the land of Goshen was a place of shelter in the storm, there will be a place of refreshing and blessing and deliverance for all those who put their trust in me, thus saith the Lord of hosts. Weep and howl, O men of finance, who oppress the poor and rob the worker of his wages. You have lived greedily upon the earth. You have fattened your flesh like cattle are fattened for the day of slaughter. Surely I will make gold worthless, and silver a thing to be mocked at. The days come, saith the Lord, when a man with a piece of bread in his pocket will be esteemed far wealthier than a man who has only a piece of worthless currency in his pocket. Many former millionaires and billionaires will go to pieces in the coming crash, which will make the crash of 1929 seem insignificant by comparison. Some will commit suicide, others will go stark raving mad because the precious money wherein they trusted will fail them in that day, and it will become sinking sand beneath their feet. It will even be like sinking in quicksand, because there will be nothing of value to prop up the money any more, and the moment of truth will come, saith the Lord, in which only that which is of everlasting value will stand in the test of fiery judgments to come.